Why did you disconnect it? Why plug it back? Why plug it? Can you help me and get Mr. Shim? Tell him that I'm not missing that. Mr. Shim, yes, Mr. Shim, that thing is not downloading in my email. I'm not receiving the email from staff. Yes, for discussion. Yes. And then let's take it back. Okay, so we have it is a way because I only did another ẹ wá wọ ọgá ẹ wò ó ti ká ó yẹ kí session ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ very 17F lórí system.
No, 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 don't start it. Um,
Right.
which one are you supposed to start?
So this is
Uh,
I'm just worried that someone owned this session and been looking for it in my system. Can't find it. Logic into theory is a question.
17. 18.
Mo tún wá rí pé mi kọ́ mo host ẹ̀ Franzo Marcellus. This ẹ̀ sọ́ra tó bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn lọ. Well, you can hear us. Please confirm that you can hear us and you're logging from the browser. Can you confirm that you can hear us? Reach yourself and confirm that you can hear us.
Hello, I can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. This last session is a couple of minutes. Just wait for all participants to organize. And the session chair, then we can finish the session. Okay.
May I make a remark because I can't hear you like clearly. It's breaking.
Okay. I'm saying that we'll start the session with a couple of minutes. So you just
Okay.
a few minutes or so, I think start the session.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
The session chair is here, is attendance and so the head of the friends presents any material. I want to go forward, see that we can get material. Yeah, it was much looking out. Yes, yes. They can tell that to join them. Hello, one. I want to share this. Right. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Can you? Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That's it. Hi, Adiola. I am Adiola. How you doing?
I'm all right. Good afternoon.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming around to the panel on new directions on African dramatic expression. My name is Kehinde Olukayode, and we'll be having three presenters in this place. Today, we'll be having one by Adeola Adeyemi from the University of Ibadan. We have online. We'll also be having Ibukunoluwa Atoyebi from the Center for Performing Arts and Film Studies in Education. And we'll also be having Kehinde Olukayode and myself from the University of Wisconsin. While we wait for Ibukunoluwa to join us, I would allow Adiola's kickstart open the floor with our presentation. Our presentation is tied to generational shift in the portrayal of female characters in the Nigerian film industry, a comparative analysis of two movies, Ashewoto Remeka and King of Boys. Over to you. You have the floor, Adiola.
Thank you very much, Professor Kayode. May I ask, how many minutes have I got so I can
So
maybe
it's only both of us at the moment, so I would say 18 minutes thereabouts,
okay.
so that we
Okay.
can have conversations. Hopefully
All right.
Ibukunoluwa joins us as we go on.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to share my screen. Can you see the screen, please?
Not yet.
Okay.
Do you have our slides?
Yeah, I've got slides. Okay. That's fine. Is that okay now? Can you see it now?
Not yet. Okay, yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good day, everyone. My name is Olubukola Adeola Adeyemi. And on this day, I'll be presenting my paper, which is titled The Generational Shift in the Portrayal
Adiola,
of Female Character.
Adiola, could you put your slides on slideshow so we can see clearly? Slideshow.
Okay. Slideshow.
It's down there. Down there. Okay. Okay, you can click on slideshow up on the taskbar you see there. After animation.
Is that okay?
Gonna come up. I'm taking time for it to come up. Yes. Yes, you can go. Go on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. So I'll start again. Hello, everybody. My name is Adeyemi Olubukola Adeola. And today I'll be presenting my paper, which is titled The Generational Shift in the Portrayal of Female Character. This is a comparative analysis of two Nigerian movies, Ashewoto Remeka and King of Boys. Thank you. So, to the introductions, this I'm gonna give a brief overview of the Nigerian Nollywood industry. So, and what introduction to the paper. So, introduction. In recent years, the Nigerian film industry, known as Nollywood, has changed how it portrays women. Previously, female characters were often shown as submissive, mainly love interest, etc. Now, women are now depicted as strong and independent, reflecting their revolving roles in the society. And this change is partly due to more women taking on influential jobs in the industry, such as directors, writers, etc. So, as we also known as a motion picture, a theatrical film, or a photoplay is undeniably a form of mass communication, and its influence extends beyond classroom and into the formation of ideas. And its influence extends beyond classroom and formation of ideas, attitude, presentation, religion, cultures, ideologies among a country populace. This is according to Perkins 2000 and Ibrahim 2013, etc. So, hence, how men and women are portrayed on screen typically shifts based on the perspectives, ideology, and agenda of the director. So, Nollywood Nigeria film has become one of the most important cinema or film industry in Africa, and used to be the third largest in the world. It's now the second, taken on after Hollywood. This according to Equasi and Arumana in 2016. So in methods of sharing films, I'm talking about the global influence now. So it has changed. Its methods of sharing film have changed African cinema, drawing attention from critics and researchers everywhere. In the past, women in the Nollywood movies are usually shown in limited roles that centered around home life, domestic works, and romance. Recently, films are starting to portray women as more complex characters with their own goals and independence. So now the statement of the problem, this paper highlights gender inequality in Nigeria, where despite women being the despite women being the majority, they face significant economic and social disadvantage. Issues include limited representation in the workforce and lack of opportunities in education, politics and business, and cultural biases hinder women empowerment. So I'm going to be listing the specific objectives of this research. This research is aimed at knowing how popular Nollywood films have become, to find out if Nollywood movies help people challenge gender inequalities in Nigeria, to check if Nollywood films can share cultural ideas between Nigeria and other countries, and also to explore whether Nollywood films can show different and better ways of representing women in the society. Brief historical context, before 2016, Nollywood movies often showed women in old-fashioned negative ways, favoring men and traditional roles. Studies by Arumana in 2016 and Oyenakeya found no real change in how women are portrayed from 1997 to 2016. Women were usually seen as sexual objects, dressed in skimpy clothes or prostitutes, and they were also shown as happy housewives focused on family mainly, no ambition, and so on. So movies like End of the Wicked depict women as dependent on men for happiness, ambitions, etc. So women were often portrayed as weak, abused, and reliant on men. This is according to Pulda in 2013. So they are also silent in stories. These men questioning their every move. Powerful women like those in business or politics were portrayed as evil, cruel, dangerous, or often punished for their success. This is according to Jonathan Haynes and Okume in 1998. So Nollywood films suggest women should lead or shouldn't lead or succeed outside traditional roles. So I try to So I'm going to go to the rationale of this research. So this research is grounded in both social cognitive theory and the cultivation theory. Social cognitive theory, according to people's expectations. I'll say that again. According to the social cognitive theory, people's expectations of how things will go in real world are shaped by what they see here in the media. In 2019, Jonathan and Holmes did a study on how relationships are shown in the most popular romantic comedies. So now they came to a conclusion that people look to relationships shown in movies to learn what to expect in real life. People repeat the positive and negative outcomes associated with behaviors they see model in the media through the process of observation, retention, and reenactment. This is according to A.R.'s level in 2024. So similarly, Hernandez in 2012 also studied the effect of film exposure on college students. So the views of dating process are argued that the cultivation theory is useful for describing the ways in which people's views are influenced and by their exposure to films, meaning the more time people spend in front of the television, the more likely they are to expect what they see a reality of life. That is, whatever they see in the picture, they try to in the movies, or they try to absorb both the positive and the negative side of it, and they take it as part of the reality of life. So, the potential of movies to instigate social transformation. So, there is evidence in academic research that points to the impact of movies and television. There is evidence in research that points to the fact that movies and television have impacted their audience in numerous ways. So Werner in 2006 conducted a research on viewing habits of the Senegalese women, children, and their adolescents with regards to the telenovelas from Latin America, serving as a major tool in helping the Senegalese women obtain autonomy in the realm of many pursuits. Similarly, Torah in 2017 conducted a research in investigating the impact of the telenovelas on viewers in two distinct communities. That is the Bouaké community, which is located in the Ivory Coast, and the Bamako community, which is located in Mali. So his findings suggest that the fact that women have insatiable appetite for telenovelas suggests that the film stimulates identification dynamic in them as they started mimicking the performers' hairstyles, the clothes, the fashion, which serve as a means of awakening their fashion inspiration and so on. So these two scholars is an evidence that Nollywood may have the ability to alter the social and gender relations of the viewers. So I'm just going to dive into the synopsis reflection of the Ashewo Toremeka. So first, I would like to state that Ashewo Toremeka was produced in 1992 by Adebayo Salami, while King of Boys was produced in 2018 by Kemi Adetiba, which is a gap of 26 years in between the production of the two movies. So the synopsis of a brief plot summary of Asewo Torimeka. So it was directed by Afolabi Adesonya, an exceptional filmmaker and administrator, directed the film Asewo Torimeka, who was produced by Chief Adebayo Salami, similarly known as Oga Bello, for the Awada Keri Keri organization. The premiere, which occurred in 1992, was received by Yoruba cinema enthusiasts and admirers at the time. The film stars Toyin Adegbola, which is Ajoke, the main character, who is Ajewo Torimeka herself, Adebayo Salami Okabelo, Sunday Aluwe, the good philanthropist, Larry Azani Yawero, and Jide Kosoko, Shola Shobowale, among many other characters. So Ajewo Torimeka is centered on the life of a renowned prostitute named Ajoke. She has gathered a significant number of partners and suitors, clients via her business, which is prostitution, of course. Upon learning that Chief Sunday, that is Aluwesh Omobalale, would support her trip to Mecca, the Holy Land in Saudi Arabia, via the United States, she decided to sever relationship with all of her lovers. She had to discard other lovers, other suitors, including Colonel Ajayi. She did this in hopes that she would be able to adopt Islamic ideal and that her prayers would be performed according to the Islamic law. Eventually, she journeyed with a companion to the Holy Land, which is Shola Shobowale, her friend. And as soon as she returned, she resumed exploiting Shiv financially. But this time, it didn't work out so well because Shiv business was already crumbling as at that time when she returned. So Ajoke now converted to Asewo, soon revert to her former habits. Even if that means her taking her vomit again, she doesn't mind. And in order to achieve this objective, she every commitment and standard she had assumed. She ignored every oath she had sworn when she got back from Mecca, and then upon her conversion to Islam. It is seen that she engaged in social activities with her ex-boyfriends, mostly Colonel Ajayi, ignoring all coming from every possible way. And she was subjected to fate that is even worse more than an infidel. She eventually got to jail and she actually had a mental ailment eventually. So the King of Boys, on the other hand, directed by Kemi Adetiba in 2018. It's written by Kemi Adetiba. It's a political thriller. In audition to Shola Shobowale, Adeswai told me those are the characters: Demola Adedoyin, Jide Kosoko, Akin Lewis, Tony Tones, rapper Remile, which is known as Reminisce, also known as is featured in the film. Sheyi Lo Wasiu Ayinde was a special character in the movie. So Shola Shobowale is about the noble Alaja Enola Salami. That's a characterization in the movie. In King of Played is about a little girl whose mother is often abused by her father, causing her great psychological distress. And so she subsequently gets employment at the restaurant where the male patrons see her and other women as simply sexual objects. Eniola emerges from a traumatic background into a powerful, self-assured, ruthless, and well-connected lady. So she operates a successful business and is giving to the community during the day, but at night, she becomes the undisputed ruler of a criminal underworld where young men commit a variety of crimes for monetary gain and so on. Eniola's wealth and influence enable her to support the political campaigns, including that of Are. So King of Boys in 2018 is a political thriller directed by Kemi Adetiba. This is an attempt to portray on camera the political lunacy in Nigeria. It investigates the possibility that Nigeria ruling elite has linked to organized crime, has links to organized crime. Alhaja Eniola Salami, a strong criminal leader with ties to the highest level of government, is the subject of the film. She invests in ill-gotten wealth in illegal enterprise such as building, retail, and banking. So although Eniola has unofficial political and economic relevance in retail and banking, both underworld and the political cycle, she is apparently excluded consideration for official appointments. Eniola Salami is introduced to us as the height of her power when she hosts a lavish birthday celebration for the city elites in Lagos State, including the governor of Lagos State. So due to all of this, Eniola's attention is diverted from her true calling, which is the administration of criminal, because she wants to attain a particular post. So she authorized the ambitious and dangerous young criminal Makanaki to rob two wealthy politicians who conceal vast sum of money in the homes. So Eniola is accused of murder, eventually, money laundering, diversion of public funds, bribery of security officers, etc. Her political alliances have damaged her relationship with her crime lord lieutenant. So Eniola Salami's political adversaries, state institution and criminal elements are irate because of one of them have violated the rule of engagement. So I'll just go into the top gender stereotypes that has been noted in this research, which is one of them is personality traits. Women are seen as possessing more empathy and flexibility, whilst men are believed to be more confident in their ability and willing to take initiative. So the second one is domestic behavior. Another is that it is often assumed that moms would take care of the children and perform the housekeeping, while dads would be a responsible will be responsible for paying bills and the vehicle of the house, all those kind of bills. So and then the occupation and physical appearance, men are supposed. This is frequently misunderstood that only males work in the male-dominated sectors, such as aviation, medicine, and engineering, but women dominate the teaching and healthcare professions. The physical appearance side of it is that men are supposed to be strong and slim, while women are meant to be tall and elegant. The gender norms of clothing and grooming apply equally to both sexes, that men in the pants and short hair, women in dresses and cosmetics. So this is a subject, this is actually pointing to a subject of hyperfemininity, which is shown in the behavior that are often associated with women to an excessive degree. Individuals who identify as hyperfeminine are more inclined to put a great focus on feminine characters. This group consists of individuals who are modest, innocent, sexually naive, soft, effervescent, great, kind, and hospitable. So the comparative analysis comes in here. So I'm just going to compare and contrast the findings and analyze them. So Ashewo Remeka and King of Boys. Ashewo Remeka, like I stated earlier, was produced in 1992, while King of Boys was produced in 2018. This is about 26 years gap and history. These two movies show women fighting against traditional gender roles in Nigerian society, but they do differently reflect changes over time. So in Ashawoto Remeka, women like Ajoke are shown as objects for men pleasure, expected to be submissive, to follow the strict gender roles. The film mirrors the traditional rule culture of the then, of 1992, where women had little freedom, according to Haggars in 2004 rather, and don't call it. So it doesn't challenge these norms, but shows them as normal, with women facing pressure to obey. So in King of Boys, Eniola Salami starts as a man's plaything, but becomes a strong, independent woman. The film highlights women pushing back against male-dominated culture, younger characters demanding equal rights, and it portrays society starting to accept change with less resistance to women's independence. So this just dive into the character variables still under the comparative analysis. So character coding of this movie falls into 35 to 59. Due to societal expectation, this is the range when people attain financial independence under the workforce. Ajoke in Ashawoto Remeka is in between the ages of 18 to 34, as it is being depicted in the movie Ashawoto Remeka. While Eniola Salami in The King of Boys is stated to be between the ages of 35 to 59. Resulting to their difference in goals at their various points of life. So, the stereotypical traits. Here, I try to use a picture illustration. I don't know if I'm still being heard. So, this is a scene. Okay, thank you so much for the feedback. This is a scene where she promises Ajoke's sponsorship, the gender stereotypical traits. So sexual orientation and innate, but gender is a social construct based on symbolic conventions of conduct. So as we can see, movie is different. One seems more ambitious than the other. In terms of their stances, Ajoke Salami seems looks terrified and all of that. So there's also environment and competence. Ajoke Salami gaze. So the stereotype content model created by Fisk Eltown provides us with this feature. A high woman description and code is given to character with plainly recognizable warm attributes, whereas a low woman description and code is given to those with more ambitious warm characters. And the gender and power contest. This is gender problem cannot be considered separately from the presentation of women. Gender is dynamic since it is culturally related to social creation. However, there are some constants throughout countries. One of such is the measure of degree of which men and women get along well in society. So the colonial treatment of Ajoke, in which she was not allowed to remove anything from her home when Colonel threw her, that is in this first image. And we can see that of Eniola Salami, a strong lady. They saw women as colonial saw women as inferior, while Eniola Salami is a protagonist in King of Boys, is a strong lady who overcomes economic odds to achieve her goals. So there's also the directorial clause, which is the male versus female. Ashawoto Remeka is directed by a male director, and while King of Boys is directed by a female director. So the critical mass theory shows that Nollywood gender equality issues go beyond just having more women in filmmaking. Women's stories focuses on inner journeys, unlike male-driven adventure tales, according to Owen in 2002. So feminist films change stereotypes, but male directors struggle to create authentic feminist narratives compared to female directors like Sofia Coppola. So King of Boys, directed by a woman in modern era, shows that women empowerment from a female shows women from a female perspective. So the director's gender and cultural context influence this portrayals, according to this research. So the summary of my findings is that this research discovered of these studies are now that the most popular in Nigeria. So it also displays a higher level of acceptability and quality among Nigerian companies worldwide. So I'll just recommend that further study could explore conducting interviews with directors and producers in Nollywood, establish whether the prevalence of female protagonists in films is purposeful and accidental. At least we need to know the reason why these directors are portraying women in such manner. So I think this is just it. I've got a new trend in it. I've got references, and I don't know if I have to read that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's just it. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Is Ibukunlua Atoyebi here? Ibukun Olua Atoyebi, are you here? Yeah, well, I see Mimi, so I just wanted to be sure. Maybe she's not the one. Yeah, from another device, not with that device. Okay, if she's not here, I think I will go on with my presentation. As you can share screen. So, good afternoon, everyone. The title of my presentation is Ephemeral Politics and Place as Archive, Dancing and the Politics of Ephemeral. And this is an ongoing research about dancing that I'm working on, specifically focused on site-specific dance in Lagos, Nigeria, particularly in the area of Oboroshoki and Bariga. But for this presentation, I will focus on Oboroshoki. And what I'm just trying to do is think through the idea of non-traditional theatrical venues and how that creates a venue for dialogue and contestation between audience and participants. And my presentation is going to focus on the slum party. Go to the next slide. So my focus is on Oboroshoki and Bariga. They are both close. Bariga is about here, and this is Oboroshoki. Next slide. And so I started out this project last year. I visited, the building is the building you see at the title. I started out and I visited the Oboroshoki Youth Center. And Oboroshoki has been a place that has always been in the news for the bad light, for the wrong things. But beyond that wrong thing, there are other integral stuffs going on. But these integral stuffs are covered by ephemeral activities, ephemeral performances that does, which the youths in that community are used to fostering change. And I will just read what I have here. The focus of this presentation, like I said, is focused on Oboroshoki, specifically the slum party and the various performance protests that are inherently situated in public non-theatrical spaces, such as the streets pothole, notorious black spots within the community, directly engage in social and physical realities of this location. This engagement in non-theatrical spaces is central to how my paper explores the idea of layering and the ability of site-specific performance to foster dialogue and contestation. The term site-specific serves as a conduit to think through performances that occur outside Inowoshoki. And the impetus for this paper comes from two things. I take off from the idea of Beth Fredman, whose work on off-sites helps me understand the idea of how contemporary performance increasingly moves beyond the confine of traditional spaces, emphasizing sites, place, and situations as integral components of this performance. Rather than focusing solely on a fixed location, Fredman's seminal work extensively describes this as artistic strategy that transcends conventional theatrical buildings. She explores increasingly how this performance moved that beyond the definitions of conventional theater and introduces the idea of offsite to describe these strategies that transcend that conventional notion. And of interest to me in Owoshoki is the guy on the left, on the extreme end there. His name is Obianju Value. And Value is the convener of the Slum Party. And what the Slum Party does is they have a community of young Nigerians, of young youths in Owoshoki, and they come together and they use this idea of dance party to address social issues. As we all know, Owoshoki and Bariga are areas that are very ridden of cultist activities over time. And in order to address these precarious conditions, they use dance to voice, and not just voice, but engage the community in conversation. And some of the, just go to the next slide, please. Yes, and this is the example of the first slum party they had. It was in 2019, and this has been going on for for a long time. And they constantly use this engagement to interact with the society, the community, and even the police and even the government. So my study adopts a two-potent approach. First, I use an ethnographic study. I attempt to comprehend the centrality of that layering in site-specific dance as both an infrastructure and cultural production of performance, focusing on Obianuju Victor in Owoshoki. And I employ both interview and on reading of the cultural expression produced, both choreographed in that site and out of that site. During the summer of 2024, I conducted performance ethnography research, which informed my analysis, and I conducted separate online interviews, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria, with both with the dancers, the dancers, right, and Obianuju. And my analysis of the cultural expression is grounded in performance studies, drawing insights from the literary, cultural, and visual performance that these posters in which they have offer us and what we can see. I also go into the videos, the recorded videos that they have, and try to understand what was the motivation for this activity in their engagement. How did they interact? How did they create or choreograph this dance to be able to speak to the society and speak to the society? So to give an overview of what Slum Party is, Slum Party is a community-driven initiative that centers around showcasing artistic performance, particularly dance, to highlight the issues facing marginalized urban communities such as Owoshoki. Organized by the Innovate Dance House, this event seeks to engage the local population by providing a platform for creative expression while addressing pressing social concerns such as violence, poverty, inequality, inadequate infrastructure. This initiative engaged local dancers and artists, encouraging community participation and fostering a sense of belonging among residents. the level of international participation and collaboration in slum parties appears to be limited but present. Value mentions that there has been some international involvement with institutions from the West, United States, and the likes, providing support for specific projects. Performance is not often tied to important local issues or protests, demonstrating how art can serve as a tool for advocacy and social change. The slum party aims to attract attention not only within the local community, but also from the broader audience, including governmental officials and potential sponsors for the area. During my interview, I asked Value, and this was one of the things that struck me. I said to Value, what is dance to you, Value? And he said, dance is talking without talking. This speaks volume of the protest-like nature of this performance, which I talk about in the broader paper. I'm just going to, and in this paper, I refer to place as that space, but not just that space, that archives that gives value, now value in terms of intangible, not value in terms of person, through human experience, sensation, and memory. Place emerges where people attach themselves to specific location, infusing them with identity, emotion, and cultural significance. Places are characterized by their relational and experiential qualities. Beyond this, the surface of the concept of place seems to encompass a range of considerations, including construction, historical legacy, temporal framework, and audience engagement. So I draw the idea of place and archive following Diana Taylor's work and exploring how memory and social identity transferred from performance. Taylor uses the term archive to critique the traditional focus of written text and narrative as the primary means of understanding culture, essentially within Latin American studies, because it marginalizes other forms of knowledge transmission, which in this case, in my study, is dance. I use dance as that archive that exists within the place called Oboroshoki to understand this idea. And to illustrate the foregoing, Oboroshoki exemplifies the concept of the place through the layering of identity, emotional significance, cultural narrative, and relational qualities that arises from community's interaction with its environment. The dance performance serves not only as a means of artistic expression, but as a catalyst for redefining the common communal sense of place within Oboroshoki through the giving voices to the community by the ability to express and address social concerns through dance, through dance, allowing them to reclaim agency over their own narrative. The Oboroshoki Youth Sports Center, which they call Papas, serve as the assemblage point for the dancers, who are mostly youths. This sense of ownership over their experience and representation effectively redefines place, reflecting their aspiration and struggle rather than just their action. So I'm just going to quickly touch on some of the interventions they did and how that informed or helped their community grow. So in response to the violence and infrastructural neglect, a group of artists, that is the Innovate Dance House, led by Value, the person now, it initiated performance protests as a form of intervention. Over a two-year period leading up to the summer slum party, this performance tackled critical community issues. One such intervention targeted Oboroshoki's longest road, a 1.1 kilometer stretch road that has gone unrepaired for years. This protest was staged during the rainy season at a particular damaged section where a massive pothole was filled with water, rainwater, mud water. As an act of symbolic resistance, the lead performer entered the mud and swam and the mud in the pothole, mocking, thanking the governor for providing a swimming pool for the community. And that was so significant because after 1 week, when the governor saw it, the governor responded and repaired the road. And it was at that point they knew that their dance could go beyond beyond just dancing, and they could use their dance to speak. Although the protest was intended to raise awareness, it also led to a direct confrontation as the performers occupied one lane of the road, though the other remained passive. A police patrol arrived, including which was the divisional police. In the middle of the performance, one dancer was physically assaulted by an officer, and the group was later detained. There's a video on YouTube. I couldn't attach it because of network. The protest gained government attention within 24 hours, and within 2 weeks, mechanisms were deployed to fix the road. A rare victory in a landscape where similar interventions have failed to produce immediate results. Despite this, the group broader intention remained consistent, highlighting pressing issues and sparking conversations with community, regardless of whether actions followed, regardless of the actions that followed. Throughout the discussion, the respondent, which is value, frequently used the word intervention, a term which appeared 14 times in the transcript of the interview. This repetition underscores the intentionality behind their performance, framing them not merely as artistic expression, but as a deliberate act of destruction aimed at engaging the social and political cultural realities of the community. This understanding aligns with Richard Schechner's concept of efficiency in performance, where an art serves as a functional purpose beyond mere entertainment, often incorporating ritualistic elements that drives transformation. The road protest exemplifies this idea, embodying a performance that aims not just to provoke thoughts, but to instigate change. Similarly, Clara Bishop, in her seminal work on disordered attention, conceptualized artistic intervention as ephemeral rate fire gestures that go viral. Bishop argues that such interventions, particularly since the 1970s, has engaged public spaces and the media to focus social issues into collective consciousness. The Owoshoki performers often entirely improvised and staged in politically charged spaces fit seamlessly into Bishop's idea of intervention. These interventions were self-initiated in response to the escalated violence and infrastructural decay. The artists deliberately used public spaces, notable areas where killings had happened by the cultist group, the pothole, the bad road, even areas that are prone to police disruption, and to create a platform for dialogue. The road protest, for instance, transformed a mundane pothole into a site-specific spectacle of reflection, using performance as a vehicle to challenge governmental neglect and community desensitization to action. While the performance were not explicitly described as everyday visual language, their symbolism was strikingly direct. The swimming in the pothole, and making the statement, "Thank you, Mr. Governor, for providing us with a swimming pool," is a clear and accessible metaphor that demands attention. Similarly, it's a clear metaphor that calls for attention. Similarly, dancing in areas linked to violence served as a form of political mourning, using movements to commiserate loss of life and challenging the normalization of brutality. Building on the interventions in Owoshoki also illustrate how participation in protest performance extends beyond the act itself, influencing long-time community engagement, shifting perceptions of activism. In a space historically shaped by violence and infrastructural neglect, the intervention not only challenged systemic issues, but also redefined how the community saw itself in relation to resistance and advocacy. The process of gathering dancers, engaging spectators, passers-by, market women, petty traders, even the police officer, even drawing the unlikely participants, such as court members acting as security, suggests that the performance became an entry point for broader civil engagements. As Shorty Ballard's framework suggests that participation is not just an act, but a transformation, one that turns audience into active contributors to discourse and for change. In Owoshoki, the transformation manifests in tangible ways. Community members found the courage to speak up. Officials were forced to acknowledge the infrastructural failures, and young people began to see the artistic expression as a tool for agency rather than merely a form of entertainment. Ultimately, this improvisational performance did more than highlight issues. They shifted power dynamics, disrupted dominant narratives, and carved out new possibilities for civic participation in a space where silence has often prevailed. In essence, the artistic intervention in Owoshoki exemplified the power of performance protest as a tool for social change by blending site-specific improvisation, symbolism, and media amplification. This act confronts urgent community issues from security concerns to infrastructural networks. And these are the various slum party banners that came up for each month that they had this slum party engagement. And each month had its own theme. If you go, you see this is vernacular. And what they were trying to do is trying to use local knowledge to address local issues, developing local knowledge. And in that engagement, they used local language, local knowledge, local proverbs to communicate with themselves to address the various local issues they have. Aesthetics would see the question of beauty, and this has to do with the waterlogged area that Owoshoki is prevailed with. If you go again, no, not this one. Lagos is a country. Lagos is a country. Also address that part and talks about, doing that aspect. They were talking about how Lagos is essential to the whole Nigerian framework. But it's also interesting that slum party is not the only engagement that this youth in this community have. As a result of the election that just passed, the youth in the community developed another dance intervention called Rhythm and Blood. And that is in the broader paper, which I will not be able to discuss in this presentation. But basically, in essence, what they have done is actually not just bringing the issues to the forefront, but also fostering important change within their community. And I would end on this last section. So, like I said, this performance in slum party is not just entertainment. They are designed to talk about things. They are designed to talk about things that are really challenging, that are facing the young people's life in Owoshoki, that part of Lagos. The use of the word party is to bring in. When I asked Badu that why did you use the word slum party, he said when they were trying to name the group or name the activity, they were looking for names, and they knew that they accepted the fact that Owoshoki was a slum, but they needed to say something or give a name that would be catchy to young individuals, attract young individuals. That's why they now call it slum party, and that better name slum party. So in exploring the intricate relationship between site-specific dance performance and their socio-cultural context, I hope this paper attempts to illuminate the transformative potentials of artistic practice in Owoshoki. These performances extend beyond mere entertainment, serving as vital engagement that fosters dialogue and reflection on pressing social issues within the community. In my study, I have tried to show how site-specific dance not only challenge conventional theoretical boundaries, but also reshapes audience participation and interaction within their environment. By positioning performance within their culturally rich and politically charged spaces, artists create a unique platform for addressing concerns. The layering of narratives, the layering of experience, the layering of social issues, and the integration of textual elements invokes a profound connection between the performance and the audience lived experience, enhancing their understanding of the notion of place. Initiatives like slum parties have emerged as a fundamental agent of community, emerged as a fundamental agent of community development and dialogue, facilitating conversations between residents and local authorities. This performance creates a space for collective expression and accountability, often leading to a tangible change within the community, demonstrated by the installation of public amenities as a direct result of this artistic gathering. The interplay of art, activism, and audience participation cultivates a sense of belonging, empowering individuals to vocalize their concerns and aspirations. I suggest, for further studies, I would suggest that we also begin to look at specific areas like that, that not just that looks so shabby and ephemeral, but birthing engagements that are fostering tangible and physical change. Thank you very much. So now we would let me check if we have yes, I wanted to check if the third panelist is around. Is Ibukun Atoyebi around? Okay, if Ibukun Atoyebi is not around, can we take questions? I can see Sonny's iPhone. So we take questions from online, then we take questions from physical participants. Yes. Sonny, are you there? Oh, okay, I think I know who this is. Oh, we also have. Okay, in the chat box. Okay. Can you?
The question says, thank you so much for this insightful panel. My question is to the last presenter, Kende. How do power structures determine which ephemeral practices become institutional archived and things that are institutionally archived and things that are embodied in communities like Monushiki? That's all part of your economic and participant observation. That's the first question. The second question says, what does your work contribute to synchronizing performance studies, especially when we take into account the African dramatic traditions and how they have been influenced by contacts with colonialism and globalization?
Okay. Let's read everything so that we can. Okay, there is one.
Okay, sorry, there's another question. Say, how did you discover the work these guys has been doing, and why is it important for you to document?
Okay. I think I'll start from the last question, then move on to the earlier one. So how I discovered the work these dancers do. I was strolling on Instagram that fateful day, and I just saw Value. I think Value is here. I think Value is Sunday. The guy, yeah, I think he joined Formula Life. And I saw his Instagram page, and I just followed, and I started observing and got interested in some of the things he was doing. And I was in a conversation with a friend, and the friend just talked about And because this also has to do with my broader research that I'm doing, that I'm writing in my dissertation. My dissertation focuses on youth cultural expressions in Nigeria, Nigerian youth culture. And I'm just trying to understand how the Nigerian youth are engaging with the socio-political structure of the Nigerian system. And so that's how I got to know Value. And I just sent him a message on Instagram and we met and we had a conversation for 1 hour. And he told me about what was going on. And I went there, observed one or two of their performances. I have not been able to attend the slum party because the slum party happens while I am away in Nigeria. So it's always a bit different. But what I have done is I have been sent videos of their slum parties and I have observed that. Recently, just last week, Thursday, we had a community engagement there in Oworoshoki at the community center where I was there and observed some of their participants. So that's my interaction so far with the community. Hoping that, like I said, this is part of the broader work, hoping to go and spend time and observe one or two of their slum parties and other initiatives they have. To go to Dami's question, these are very interesting questions. Thank you, Dami, for your question. It says, I will start from the second question. Say, how does your, let me start from the first. My question is, how do power structures determine their ephemeral practice becoming institutionally archived and those that are embodied in the committee? Well, I thank you so much for that, for that question. Well, the idea of power structure is such an interesting subject within the question of the dance because we have our youths who are dancing, and according to the power structure in Nigeria, youth seems to be somewhere in the lower bottom or in the middle. But what they try to do is they use the power of the dance, the efficiency of that dance to address subjects and face power structures. Now, this is not to contest or to create a contestation, but a subversion, a way of not just existing pari passu to foster change. Their focus is the change that they want, the change in the image of their community, the change in the way their community has been painted, in public life. I hope that answers your question. And that are embodied in community like Ocean. Yeah, basically. The second question is, what does your work contribute to decolonizing performance studies, especially when we take into account the African dramatic tradition, and how may it have been influenced by the contact we have? Well, the question of performance studies is not one that is new to Africa, but the conversation with the field and about the field in relation to African studies is what is just coming up. As scholars like James Yekun, Paul Ugo, have also addressed the idea of youth in Africa in relation to reading their cultural expressions in performance studies. And I think what I just bring to the table is just bringing a different nuanced analytical framework to address the question or define the question of youth expressions in Nigeria, which is what
I think that making site the thematic content.
Yeah.
Because primarily site is not even premise. When we talk about
yes,
especially in commenting on issues that you have in Nigerian African science is not even premise.
Yes.
So problematizing science becomes a very significant proposition. I don't think.
Yeah, I think that does it. Thank you so much for that. Kayode, you have your hand up.
Okay, thank you for a great panel. Thank you to Adela and to you, Sam. I have a question for each of you. I'll start with Sam. Great presentation, fantastic work. I was really fascinated by your title, especially with the syntactic pairing of archive and ephemerality. So your title is Place as Archive, Dancing and the Politics of the Ephemeral. And that was interesting to me because the archival and the ephemeral are dialectically opposed, right? The archival is that which preserves for long term, and the ephemeral is that which doesn't last.
Mhm.
So I was really interested in the way you paired those two concepts
Okay.
within your. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, okay, within your title. However, I didn't hear so much of the ephemeral in your presentation. So I'm interested to hear you talk more about how you are theorizing the ephemeral in this project. Like, what exactly is ephemeral about this group or the work they do? Is it um, the fact that the sites of performance are constantly changing? Like, I remember you mentioned um, this pothole where they did a performance and then the governor came to fix it. Is that what you mean by ephemerality
Yes.
or something else?
Yes, that's what I mean by ephemerality. And because the conception of dance or dancing within Nigeria is taken as something which is unserious, which is second to none, is not taken seriously, rather. And so nobody really pays attention to that activity within the Nigerian space. I know that a lot of people have written on dance, but within Nigerian space, I was speaking to um, the um, the head of the Nigerian Guild of Dancers, and she said that they had to specifically go and have meetings with the Commissioner of Police and important stakeholders in the state. And one thing that was recurring is that dance. That what is really important about dance, that they're taking it seriously and they're using it, and that shows how the subject, the act of dancing has been relegated to nothing, to nothingness. But within the Oworoshoke, that same thing that has been regarded as nothingness is what what the youth in that community are using to bring change. Hence why I use the term the politics of empowerment, because they are trying to use something very insignificant to get a significant change. Like you mentioned, the issue about the pothole, the issue about courtism, several other issues and interventions that they have used this their dance performance to foster and get results. There was one of their slum parties. What they did was they told the DPO that they wanted to invite the DPO to come and talk to the youths. And when they got to the youth, when the DPO got there, they set up a conversation. The youth stood on one side and the DPO stood on one side, and they had a conversation. In one of the videos I watched, which I'm not able to show here, is that the one of the youth came up front and said, "Why is it that when you see a youth with a dreadlock, why is it that when you see a youth dressed in some kind of way, you always arrest him?" And that avenue, that dance platform created that opportunity for dialogue and conversation. And these are the kind of things, these are the ephemeral things that I'm trying to look at. My study is trying to look at. I hope I'm able to answer your question.
Yes, thank you, Sam. I think this is a conversation we can pick up after today, but
Yes.
like my the way I was thinking of ephemerality is quite different from what I'm hearing you speak about, but I don't want to take too much time here.
Okay.
Um, I'll quickly ask a question, direct a question to Adela. Thank you for your presentation. And like immediately you started with like your first slide with the title about a comparative analysis of Ashaoto Remeka and King of Boys. The idea that jumped into my head immediately is time, right? And that is figured in your title, Generational Shift in the portrayal of female characters. And I know that in many ways we think of time as a linear sort of teleological progression toward a progression, right? So what I'm trying to say in simple terms is normally we would think that the character in Ashewoto Remeka is probably less empowered compared to the character in King of Boys, largely because of the time gap between both of those characters. But I'm interested to hear your perspective about that time span. And because I think we take for granted the fact that being more contemporary doesn't necessarily mean there is more gender empowerment, by which I mean it doesn't mean that women are more empowered in 2025 more than they were in 1990. In fact, like some scholars have argued that pre-colonial, I mean, I'm speaking specifically of Oyeronke Oyewumi now, who argue that pre-colonial Yoruba women were not subjected to patriarchy. So I'm interested to hear like what is your own position about gender empowerment and time? Do you think that the I mean, in more contemporary times, women are more empowered than in previous generations? I know that that question sounds a bit complicated, but I hope it makes a bit of sense to you and you can take a stab at it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Coyote. So in response to that, I'll just say, even because I actually gathered a little bit of latest trends about the topic, because as at the time that I researched this paper, it was in 2023 that I submitted it for my master's thesis. For instance, Okome in 2020 said something like and made emphasis on some themes. The women, even though we are in the modern era now, that does not mean women still have they still give women chances. It does not really mean, because some of those chances are given to the Hellites.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you understand what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
So that does not even mean that, okay, we are in contemporary
Mm-hmm.
era. The shift, what's it called? The holding stereotypes still exist.
Mm-hmm.
The whole stereotypes still exist. However, there is just a minimal to it. So it depends on who you know, who you are, or how you've gathered your power. But some women are still subjugated to the whole popular culture.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. I hope I'm able to answer
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have Kwame Buafo. Can you ask a question?
Yes,
Then we'll
hello.
come to the audience.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Kwame.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for this incredible presentation. So, it's not so much about a question, but perhaps a comment or a way of rethinking, and this leads to the earlier question about ephemerality, the archive and place. My sense is that perhaps we could think a bit more about what we are thinking with ephemerality here, because my sense is that the place where they did the performance that the local government official came to fix, they were no longer going to return to that place again. They will move to another place.
Yeah.
So the place become an ephemeral entity where it keeps moving based on the issues that they are talking about. Of course, we can connect it to dance, and because the movement will also change from performance to performance. So maybe a way to expand on, the thinking behind ephemerality and the archive. Perhaps we could think about place as an ephemera, because the performance, changes from different spaces.
Space to place. Yeah. Yes. I also do that in the paper, in the broader paper, where I try to rethink the idea of space within the conversation of site-specific work, and how the idea of ephemerality or the slipperiness of the term of space, of place rather, helps in that understanding of ephemerality. But thank you so much, Kwame. Any other question online? Question from the audience? Do we have anyone? Any question? Audience? Questions? Okay, if there is no question, I think I'll check back again online. We check back again. Is there anyone that have questions from the participants online? Any question? Okay, in absence of any question, thank you all for coming to this panel. Thank you so much. Thank you for the questions, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you, Adiola.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure. Hold on.
Yeah? Crown coffee. She lady.
She.